You know that feeling when a brown envelope lands on the mat and you already feel tired before you even bend down to pick it up? Maybe it goes next to the kettle for an hour because you want one calm cup of tea before another little demand arrives in your day. Maybe you tell yourself it is probably only a routine thing, and yet your stomach still tightens because money has a way of turning a quiet morning noisy. And if you live alone now, or you are helping a partner who is slowing down, even a small bill can feel bigger than the number printed on the page. If this channel helps you feel a bit steadier with all this, you are very welcome to subscribe and keep me nearby for the next letter, phone call, or rule that nobody properly explained. Because here is the truth that holds this whole video together. After 60, some charges keep coming not because you still owe them, but because the system rarely stops them for you on its own. You usually have to know the rule, use the right words, and in some cases make the claim yourself, even when the exemption is already sitting there in law. So let us walk through 5 bills older people often keep paying by habit, by worry, or by lack of clear information, when they may be able to stop. The first bill is prescription charges, and this one catches people in such an ordinary little moment that it barely feels like a money problem until it has happened again and again. You are at the pharmacy counter, perhaps picking up tablets you have had for years, perhaps something new for blood pressure, joints, sleep, or a chest infection, and your purse is already in your hand. You pay because that is what you have always done, or because you do not want to hold the queue up, or because you assume there must have been a reason nobody told you otherwise. But in England, once you are 60 or over, NHS prescriptions are free, and many people still carry on paying simply because the old habit stays in place. Now, I want to say this carefully because this is exactly where confusion starts, and confusion is expensive when money is already tight. This rule matters most in England, and it is one of those rules that sounds small until you add it up across the year, especially if you collect several items each month. The mistake people make is not always paying once by accident, but paying over and over because they think free prescriptions changed with state pension age, or because nobody at the surgery ever mentioned it. The simple rule to remember is this: turning 60 in England is the key point for free NHS prescriptions, and you should not assume the system will tap you on the shoulder and tell you. The phrase I would write down is this: I am over 60, so I need to check that I am not paying NHS prescription charges in England when I do not need to. That one sentence matters because it turns a vague feeling into a proper question, and proper questions are what get things fixed in real life. It also helps you avoid the other problem, which is ticking the wrong exemption box without being sure, because if you claim wrongly on NHS costs, there can be penalties as well as back payments. So this is not about guessing or hoping for the best. It is about calmly checking the rule and making sure the charge really belongs to you before you hand the money over. And that is the wider lesson already. Later, life money is often lost in quiet, repeated moments, not only in giant financial disasters that make the news. If you have ever thought, surely they would tell me if I was exempt, I am afraid that is exactly the assumption that keeps money leaking out of ordinary homes. So if plain English checks like this help you feel more in control, you may want to subscribe, because a lot of financial protection is simply knowing what to ask before you pay. The first bill teaches the central theme beautifully. The rule may exist, but it still needs a human being to notice it and use it. The second bill is the eye test, and this one often arrives wrapped in another old habit, which is putting your own routine care off, because there is always something else to pay first. A lot of people over 60 notice their reading is not as sharp, night driving feels harder, or the television captions seem a little more necessary than they used to be. Even then, they delay the test because they think the whole visit will be another cost they can do without for a few more months, and those months quietly turn into a year. But if you are 60 or over, you are entitled to a free NHS sight test, and that can matter far more than many people realise. The important thing here is to separate the eye test from the glasses, because this is where people get muddled and either pay too much or avoid going at all. The free part, at 60 and over, is the NHS sight test, which means the actual check on your eyes, your vision, and possible problems that are better caught early than late. That does not automatically mean free glasses or contact lenses, and I think it is better to say that plainly than let people walk in with the wrong expectation and walk out feeling embarrassed. If you also get pension credit guarantee credit or help through the NHS low-income route, you may get help with glasses too, but the first door that opens at 60 is the test itself. There is another detail here that can make a real difference in later life, especially if getting out has become harder than it used to be. If you are entitled to a free NHS sight test and you cannot leave home without help because of illness or disability, you may be able to get a mobile sight test at home. That matters because some people do not just put off the cost, they put off the effort, the travel, the arranging, and the whole business becomes too much trouble for one afternoon. The practical phrase to remember is this: free sight test does not always mean free glasses, but at 60 and over, I should not be skipping the test because I assume the whole visit must cost money. Once again, the hidden cost is not only the fee itself, but the delay, because delayed checks can lead to bigger problems, more worry, and sometimes even less independence. Good information does not just save cash, it helps you keep hold of the small freedoms that make day-to-day life easier, like reading letters clearly or feeling steady when you go out. And if you would like more of these calm little rule checks that can quietly protect both your money and your confidence, do consider subscribing so we can keep working through them together. The second bill brings us back to the same truth. Sometimes the charge stays in place simply because no one split the rule into simple words. The third bill is national insurance, and this one is especially painful because it comes out so quietly that many people do not notice it straight away. Plenty of people work after 60 now, some because they enjoy keeping busy, some because they want to, and many because the bills do not stop just because a birthday arrives. You might do 2 days a week in a shop, help in a school office, drive part-time, clean, consult, care, or do self-employed bits and pieces that keep a little money coming in. Then one day you look at a payslip and realize you are still being charged for something you assumed would have ended by now, but you never quite checked. Here is the rule in plain English, and it matters because people often muddle it up with retirement itself. For most people, national insurance stops once you reach state pension age, which is not the same thing as simply choosing to retire from work. That means you can still be working and still have a state pension coming in, but national insurance should not go on forever just because you kept the job for a bit longer. For self-employed people, one detail matters in particular. Class 4, national insurance stops from the 6th of April after you reach state pension age, which is the start of the next tax year. The named phrase I would remember here is this: state pension age ends national insurance for most people, but it does not automatically end income tax. That distinction is worth holding on to because some people stop one charge and assume every deduction should vanish, while others keep paying national insurance because they think all deductions are normal forever. If you are still working, look at the payslip, and if something does not seem right, ask payroll to explain it in plain words, because quiet payroll errors can eat away at money for months. And if you are self-employed, be clear in your own mind that ordinary national insurance after state pension age is not the same thing as choosing to pay voluntary contributions to fill old gaps. This point matters because older workers are often the least noisy people in the room and the least likely to complain, even when a deduction looks wrong. They assume somebody younger in payroll must know better, or they feel awkward asking, or they say to themselves that it is probably only a small amount anyway. But the central theme of this video is that small amounts collected under the wrong rule are still your money, and your age does not take away your right to question them. So if you value having someone remind you what to check before another deduction becomes a long habit, you may find this a good channel to subscribe to and keep close by. The fourth bill is the TV license, and this one is a classic example of a payment that can leave your bank every month so neatly that it almost becomes part of the wallpaper. You stop seeing it because it has always been there, and because it is paid by direct debit, it does not arrive with the drama of a paper demand on the mat. But after a certain age, and with the right benefit in place, some people can stop paying it altogether, while others can at least pay less, and never realize that either. This is where one hidden rule leads into another, and where knowing about pension credit can unlock much more than people expect. The key rule is this: if you are 75 or over and you get pension credit, or you live with a partner at the same address who gets pension credit, you can get a free TV license. That means this is not simply an age 75 rule on its own. The pension credit part is vital, and that is exactly why many older people miss out. There are also reduced TV license rules in some cases, such as if you are registered blind, or if you live in certain kinds of residential care, supported housing, or sheltered accommodation. So when people say, "I thought that ended years ago," the answer is often not quite, because the free or reduced license still exists, but only for the right group. Let me give you a real sort of story, because this is where these rules stop being abstract and start feeling like somebody's actual life. Margaret is 78, widowed, and lives in the same semi she and her husband bought decades ago, with a small private pension, a state pension, and just enough pride to say she is managing. She assumed pension credit was for people much worse off than her, so she never checked, and every month the TV license went out, while she also put off dental work because money felt too tight. Her daughter sat down with her one Sunday, checked the figures properly, and it turned out the TV license was not the only thing she had been missing, because pension credit opened the door to other help as well. The practical phrase to remember is this: pension credit is not charity, it is an entitlement, and at 75, a free TV license may depend on it. That sentence is worth writing down because the biggest barrier is often not the form, but the feeling, the quiet thought that says, someone else needs it more than I do, so I should not ask. If you hear yourself saying that, please slow down and separate emotion from entitlement, because there are many decent, careful, older people paying bills. They do not need to pay for that very reason. And if these gentle checks spare you from learning rules the hard way, you might like to subscribe, because this channel is really about making the system less foggy and a bit more human. The fifth bill is council tax, and this is the one that can hurt the most because it is big, regular, and deeply unfair when the household situation has changed but the bill has not. A partner dies, a child moves out, you begin living alone, or somebody in the home develops dementia or another serious condition that changes everything about daily life. Yet the council tax bill can sit there as if nothing happened, asking for the same amount and speaking in the same flat, official voice, even though the rules may now be different. This is why older people often overpay not through one mistake, but through a life change that nobody turns into a claim. The simplest part of the rule is the single person discount, and it is astonishing how many people either forget to claim it or assume it appears by magic. If you live alone, you can usually get 25% off your council tax bill, and if everyone else in the property is disregarded under the rules, that can also affect the amount due. There are cases where a 50% discount can apply if everybody in the home is disregarded, and there are stronger protections in severe mental impairment cases, which many families only discover far too late. The mistake is believing the council will simply notice your bereavement, your living arrangement, or your caring situation and automatically redesign the bill around it. Now let's talk about the part families often find most painful, because it sits right at the crossing point of money, illness, and paperwork. If someone is classed as severely mentally impaired, which can include serious dementia, there may be a council tax discount or even a full exemption depending on who else lives there and how the household is counted. In broad terms, a person who qualifies and lives alone can get a 100% discount, and there are other discount levels when they live with certain other adults or with people who are disregarded. The phrase to remember here is this: ask the council for the severe mental impairment council tax form, because many people never hear those words unless another carer whispers them first. This part of the system can feel cold, so I want to speak about it gently and plainly. A wife caring for her husband with worsening dementia is already carrying appointments, sleep problems, safety worries, and grief for the life they used to have, so it is no surprise if a tax form falls to the bottom of the pile. But the law does not become less real just because life is hard, and some households go on paying full council tax for years when a discount should have been in place much earlier. So if you are in that world or know somebody who is, please hear this clearly. The bill on the mat is not always the final truth, and the right claim can change it. That is why council tax may be the strongest example of the central theme in this whole video. The amount you pay is sometimes less about the number printed in the top corner and more about whether the household has been described properly under the rules. If you want a calm place to keep learning the questions that protect ordinary people from ordinary overpayments, you are warmly welcome to subscribe, because this sort of knowledge should not be hard to find. And with council tax especially, the practical words you use can be worth hundreds of pounds a year, which is a serious amount of money in any home. So let's gather all this into one simple end of video ritual you can actually use, because information only helps if it turns into action. Make a cup of tea, sit at the table, and put 5 things in front of you if they apply: a prescription receipt, an optician reminder, a recent payslip, your TV license payment, and your council tax bill. Then ask one quiet question for each one. Does this still apply to me under the rule I am living under now, at my age, with my household, income, and health as they really are today? And if you know a parent, neighbor, friend, or sibling who always says, "I just pay it because I thought I had to," send this video to them as a small act of kindness. What I hope you carry away is not just a list of bills, but a steadier way of thinking. Later, life money can feel like walking down a long hallway in the dark, where every shadow looks like another cost, and every envelope feels heavier than it should. But these exemptions and discounts are like light switches already fixed to the wall, and nobody may have shown you where they are, yet they are still there to be used. Once the light is on, the hallway is still the same hallway, but you stop bumping into things that were never meant to hurt you in the first place. So please do not assume every bill that reaches your doormat is truly yours for life. Check the rule, claim what is yours, and let your money stay where it can do some real good. A quieter financial life often begins with one calm sentence: I do not think I should still be paying that.